Welcome back to our podcast where the stories behind the screen are told with all the respect and nostalgia they deserve. In 1966, in broad daylight, a shadow fell across America's television screens and created a cultural phenomenon unlike any other. That show was Dark Shadows. With its story of the ghostly mysteries of the Collins family, the work broke all the rules of a daytime drama, bringing vampires, witches, and werewolves into the living rooms of millions of families. It wasn't just a commercial success. It became an unforgettable part of an entire generation's memory. But behind these classic characters were actors with their own unique destinies. Nearly 6 decades have passed, and time has etched different marks on their lives. Some continued to shine brightly. Some chose a quieter path, and some had to end their journeys in tragedy. Let's look back at the tumultuous journey of the cast who gave Dark Shadows its soul. Jonathan Frid as Barnabas Collins. In Dark Shadows, the character of Barnabas Collins was the tragic soul who forever changed the show. Initially just a minor character with his wolves, head cane, sorrowful eyes, and internal torment, Barnabas left an indelible impression. Jonathan Frid's performance at the time, at the age of 42, brilliantly portrayed the image of a reluctant vampire, both terrifying and pitiable, who turned a failing series into a phenomenon. After the resounding success of Dark Shadows, Jonathan Frid's career seemed to be defined by his vampire role, born on December 2nd, 1924. A classically trained Shakespearean actor from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and Yale University, Frid was initially hesitant to take a role in a soap opera. He saw it merely as a temporary job to earn money to return to Hollywood. But fate had other plans. After Dark Shadows ended, he appeared in a few horror films, but never escaped the massive shadow of Barnabas. Instead of fighting it, he chose to embrace his legacy. He founded his own company touring North America with one-man shows where he read horror stories and poetry, using his mesmerizing voice to raise money for charities. He lived a quiet, single life dedicated entirely to his art and the fans who loved him. What is most profound is the strange connection between the role and his life. On screen, Barnabas Collins was a character imprisoned in darkness, forever haunted by the past. In real life, Jonathan Frid was in a way also imprisoned by the very role that made him famous. He was a classical stage actor, but the world would forever remember him as a vampire. But unlike Barnabas, he found peace and purpose in that curse, turning it into a means to contribute to art and community. However, that dedicated journey had to come to a sudden end. On April 14, 2012, Jonathan Frid passed away at the age of 87 from complications from a fall and pneumonia. His passing just weeks before the premiere of the new Dark Shadows film, in which he had a final cameo, left a huge void. The legacy he left behind is not just one of the most iconic vampires, but the story of an artist who accepted and transformed his destiny into a beautiful legacy. Grayson Hall as Dr. Julia Hoffman. In Dark Shadows, the character of Dr. Julia Hoffman was the voice of science and reason in a world filled with the supernatural, with her signature, streaked hair and intellectual demeanor. Grayson Hall breathed life into the character, transforming Julia from someone trying to cure Barnabas into his confidant protector, and perhaps the only one who truly understood his pain. Her performance at the time, at the age of 44, brilliantly showcased the intelligence, compassion, and complexity of a woman drawn into the darkness. Before entering the world of Dark Shadows, Grayson Hall was already a respected stage actress, and even an Academy Award nominee, born on September 18, 1922. She built her career on the avant-garde stages of New York. She received an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her role in the 1964 film The Night of the Iguana, a testament to her undeniable talent. The role of Julia Hoffman was originally intended to last only a few weeks, but her performance made the character indispensable. After the series ended, she continued her television career with roles in other soap operas like All My Children and One Life to Live. She was married to screenwriter Sam Hall, who was also one of the main writers for Dark Shadows, creating a unique professional and personal connection. What is most profound is the complete contrast with her fate. On screen, Dr. Hoffman was a healer, a woman who fought against supernatural curses and ailments. In real life, Grayson Hall had to face a cruel worldly disease that no magic could cure. The woman who spent years on screen trying to save an immortal creature could not save herself from the finality of human life. However, that talented journey was cut tragically short. She was diagnosed with lung cancer. On August 7, 1985, Grayson Hall passed away at the age of 62 from the disease. Her passing left a deep sense of sorrow. Her legacy is not just a wise and compassionate character, but a respectable stage and screen career, a reminder that even healers need healing. Alexandra Isles as Victoria Winters. When Dark Shadows began, the story was told through the eyes of Victoria Winters, a young governess who arrives at Collinwood to search for her. Mysterious origins. Alexandra Isles, then only 21, brought an innocent, curious, and brave Victoria to life. She was the audience's gateway into the gloomy world of the Collins family, the embodiment of light amidst the shadows. But Alexandra Isles' life after Dark Shadows took a completely different turn, one even more thrilling than the stories at Collinwood. Born on February 11, 1945. The daughter of a Danish diplomat, Isles left the show and her rising acting career in 1968. She moved into a different field: documentary filmmaking. She became a respected filmmaker with works focusing on social justice and history. However, her name once again captured global attention in the 1980s, but not for her art. She became a central figure in one of the most scandalous trials of the 20th century, the trial of Klaus von Bülow. Isles was von Bülow's mistress, and her testimony became one of the most critical pieces of evidence against him in his first trial, where he was convicted of attempting to murder his wife, Sunny. Although the verdict was later overturned, her role in the case was forever etched in history. What is most profound is the strange connection between the role and her life. On screen, Victoria Winters was a person searching for the truth about her own past. In real life, Alexandra Isles became the holder of a terrible truth that could decide another's fate. The innocent girl on screen became a key witness in a real-life story of betrayal and alleged murder among the elite. Today, at the age of 80, Alexandra Isles lives a quiet life far from the spotlight. She has left behind both her acting career and the scandals of the past. Her journey is proof that real life can sometimes be more dramatic than anything we see on film, and that peace is sometimes the most worthy final chapter. Nancy Barrett as Carolyn Stoddard. As Carolyn Stoddard, the rebellious and passionate daughter of the Collins family, Nancy Barrett brought a youthful energy to the gloomy Collinwood mansion. At the age of 23, when she began the role, she vividly portrayed a young woman longing for love and freedom who often found herself entangled in supernatural dangers. After Dark Shadows, Nancy Barrett continued her acting career on stage and television, but her personal life took interesting turns. Born on October 5, 1943, she was married twice, including a brief marriage to her co-star, David Ford. She later found happiness with her third husband, a prominent psychiatrist. After he passed away, she did not remarry. Instead of limiting herself to acting, she explored her other talents. She performed in one-woman cabaret shows, showcasing her singing and storytelling abilities, and even made her debut in a production of The Nutcracker Ballet. She remains a familiar face at Dark Shadows conventions, where she always greets fans with warmth and grace. What is most profound is the complete contrast with her characters. Fate. On screen, Carolyn Stoddard was a character who frequently faced tragedy and emotional instability. In real life, Nancy Barrett is a woman who found stability, explored many facets of herself, and maintained a strong connection to the legacy that made her famous. The rebellious young woman on screen became a multi-talented and fulfilled woman. Today, at the age of 82, Nancy Barrett continues to pursue her artistic projects and live a peaceful life. Her journey is a testament to the ability to move beyond defining roles and to continuously rediscover oneself, and she continues to inspire the fans who have followed her for so many years. Joan Bennett, as Elizabeth Collins, Stoddard. As Elizabeth Collins Stoddard, the mysterious matriarch of Collinwood, Joan Bennett, brought the regal presence and gravitas of a true Hollywood star. When she began the role at the age of 56, she was already a living legend of the Golden Age. Elizabeth was the keeper of the family's darkest secrets, a woman living as a recluse in her own home. Joan Bennett's real life was more dramatic than any of her roles. Born on February 27, 1910, into a prestigious acting dynasty, she became a major star in 1910, the 1930s. But her career was severely damaged by a notorious scandal in 1951. Her third husband, producer Walter Wanger, shot and wounded her agent, Jennings Lang, in a fit of jealousy. The scandal caused Hollywood to turn its back on her for years. Dark Shadows was her spectacular comeback, introducing her to a new generation of audiences and re-establishing her status as a star who never faded. Her marital life was also turbulent, with 4 marriages. What is most profound is the strange connection between the role and her life. On screen, Elizabeth Collins. Stoddard was a woman who hid herself away after a past tragedy. In real life, Joan Bennett was also a woman who had to live in the shadow of a scandal that nearly destroyed her career. Both the character and the actress were survivors, women who had to confront secrets and infamy to find their place again. However, that journey of glory and hardship had to come to an end. On December 7th, 1990, Joan Bennett passed away at the age of 80 from a heart attack. Her passing closed a glorious chapter of Hollywood. The legacy she left behind are classic roles and a life story of resilience in the face of the harshest storms of fame. David Selby as Quentin Collins. When David Selby appeared in Dark Shadows as Quentin Collins, a ghostly and charming character, he immediately became a sex symbol. At 25, with his handsome looks and mysterious smile, Selby brought a Quentin who was both romantic and dangerous, melting the hearts of millions of fans and even having his own theme song become a chart-topping hit. After Dark Shadows, David Selby went on to have a successful and enduring career. Born on February 5, 1941, he did not let himself be typecast in the werewolf role. He moved on to film and television, most notably as Richard Channing, the scheming villain in the popular 1980s series, Falcon Crest Ad, role that brought him widespread recognition. He is also a writer, having published several collections of poetry and novels. Unlike many of his colleagues, he has had an incredibly strong and happy marriage with his college sweetheart Chip for over 60 years. What is most profound is the complete contrast between his role and his life. On screen, Quentin Collins was an unstable character, a cursed soul, constantly shifting between good and evil. In real life, David Selby is a model of stability, a family man, a versatile artist, and a person with a fulfilling life. Today, at the age of 84, David Selby is still continuing his career in acting and writing, living a peaceful life with his family. His journey is a testament to the ability to build a sustainable career and a happy life after becoming a cultural phenomenon, and he continues to inspire the generations that follow. David Hennessy as David Collins. As David Collins, the morose and troubled orphan of Collinwood, David Hennessy delivered a performance that was haunting and far more mature than his years. Beginning the role at just 10 years old, he brilliantly portrayed a traumatized child who communicated with ghosts. But unlike many other child stars after Dark Shadows ended, David Hennessy chose a completely different path. Born on October 20th, 1956, after a few other roles, he left the spotlight entirely. He moved to Panama, where he and his wife opened a successful restaurant. He has lived a completely normal life away from public attention and rarely participates in events related to Dark Shadows. What is most profound is the complete contrast between his role and his life. On screen, David Collins was a boy living in a world of drama and chaos. In real life, David Hennessy was a man who actively sought a peaceful and simple life. The boy, who lived with ghosts on screen, became a man who found happiness in the most ordinary things. Today, at the age of 69, David Hennessy is still living a quiet life. His journey is proof that it is entirely possible to have a full and happy life after experiencing fame at a very young age. Catherine Lee Scott as Maggie Evans. As Maggie Evans, the kind-hearted waitress and later governess who bore a striking resemblance to Barnabas, lost love. Catherine Lee Scott was the embodiment of innocence and kindness. Starting at the age of 23, she became one of the series' first leading ladies. After Dark Shadows, Catherine Lee Scott had a diverse and interesting career, born on January 26, 1943. She is not only an actress, but also a successful writer and publisher. She has written many books, including books about Dark Shadows that have helped keep the show's legacy alive. She also founded her own publishing company, Pomegranate Press. Her personal life has had its chapters of happiness and tragedy. She was married to Time magazine founder George Ashley Smith, and after he passed away, she found love again with Jeff Miller, the editor-in-chief of Los Angeles magazine, until he also passed away. What is most profound is the parallel between her role and her life. On screen, Maggie Evans was a storyteller, a chronicler of the events in Collinsport. In real life, Catherine Lee Scott also became a storyteller, the preserver of the history of Dark Shadows itself through her books. She turned her love for the show into a mission, ensuring that those stories would never be forgotten. Today, at the age of 82, Catherine Lee Scott is still active as an actress and writer. Her journey is a testament to a lifelong love for the art of storytelling, both on screen and on the page. Lewis Edmonds as Roger Collins. As Roger Collins, the aristocratic, skeptical, and often fearful man of the Collins family, Lewis Edmonds created a character who was both despicable and pitiable. At the age of 43, when he began the role he brought to life, a Roger Collins constantly haunted by ghosts of the past and present. In real life, Lewis Edmonds was a classically trained stage actor and a Navy veteran of World War II. Born on September 24, 1923, he had a respectable stage career before joining Dark Shadows. After the series ended, he continued his career on television, most notably as Langley Wallingford in the long-running soap opera All My Children. For 15 years, he was an openly gay man. At a time when it was still taboo in Hollywood, living a private but authentic life, what is most profound is the complete contrast with his characters. Fate on screen. Roger Collins was a weak man, always controlled by fear and insecurity. In real life, Lewis Edmonds was a strong and brave man, one who served his country in war and dared to live true to himself in a prejudiced society. However, that dignified journey had to end. On March 3rd, 2001, Lewis Edmonds passed away at the age of 77 from respiratory failure. The legacy he left behind is not just his diverse roles, but also the image of an artist who lived an honest and courageous life. Lara Parker as Angelique. As Angelique, the beautiful, jealous, and powerful witch who cursed Barnabas Collins to become a vampire, Lara Parker created one of the most seductive and memorable villains. Taking the role at the age of 28, she delivered an Angelique who was both terrifying and tragic, a woman destroyed by her own love. After Dark Shadows, Lara Parker continued her acting career on television, but she also found a new passion. Born on October 27, 1938, she returned to school, earned a Master of Fine Arts, and became an English teacher. More importantly, she became the literary successor to Dark Shadows. She wrote 4 novels that continued the character stories, giving Angelique a depth and redemption that the television series never did. She lived a peaceful life with her husband and daughter. What is most profound is the deep connection between the role and her life. On screen, Angelique was a character obsessed with her story, trapped in a cycle of love and revenge. In real life, Laura Parker was also captivated by that story, but in a creative way, she became the one to rewrite the fate of the very character that made her famous, giving her a voice and a different ending. However, that creative journey had to come to an end. After a battle with cancer on October 12, 2023, Laura Parker passed away at the age of 84. Her passing left fans in mourning. Her legacy is not just an immortal witch, but also a testament to the power of retelling one's own story.